And I've said this a million times. People will pay a few $100 to get out of pain. They'll pay a couple thousand for what they can't do, and they'll pay 10,000 for what that means. We're going to start out with the why, because we did get a few questions on that. I won't read the word for word question, but basically it's, hey, I had a patient come in. They realized how they were in trouble. They wanted to be healthier, and then they just didn't sign up, and I couldn't get a why. One of the things I want to address here is some of your recordings are painful. And here's why. You are making it awkward because you're trying to get an emotional connection that you haven't earned. My analogy is, here's the deal. And I've said this a million times. People will pay a few $100 to get out of pain. They'll pay a couple thousand for what they can't do, and they'll pay 10,000 for what that means to them. But there's still work to be done to get there. So for example, in fact, this was right off a recording. And I was talking to the doctor and they said, I don't understand why she didn't sign up. I had such a great why. And I listened to the recording and I'm like, I don't see it. So I said, well, what do you think the why was? She wanted to play with her grandkids. I started laughing when I heard this because of Wade on our last coaching call. What's your response, Wade, when someone says their why is they don't want to, like, oh, I got the patient's why they don't want their foot amputated?
Why not?
Yeah, neither do I, right?
Neither do I. Yeah, like if I don't want to have surgery, well, I don't either. I don't want an amputation. I don't either.
Nobody
those aren't
wants that
whys.
stuff. That's not a why.
Yeah, I didn't wake up today. I'm like, man, I just cut my stupid foot off.
Yeah,
Just
So,
over
so the
it.
point is, that's not a why. So here was my question. I said, okay, and here's the point to this. You have to get more clarification. If you try to do the Dr. Phil FBI approach, it's going to feel salesy and awkward. If you put the time in and connect to someone as a human being, it's organically easy. So in this case, when the lady says, I want to play with my grandkids, that's not a why. The doctor went right into, and how would that feel to play with your grandkids? And the woman was like, it'd feel good. They're my grandkids. She was almost offended by this. And the doctor's like, I just felt salesy. I'm like, that's because you were salesy. You hadn't earned the right to ask that question yet. This is like being on a first date and before the meal even arrives, leaning in and trying to get the goodnight kiss. Like, you're going to get there eventually if you connect and ask questions and get to know this person, but you just haven't put in the time yet. So my question to this doctor was, how old are her grandkids? If I've got a 15-month-old grandkid and I don't have good balance and I'm afraid to walk and console this kid while it's crying, that's a different why than I have a 15-year-old grandchild whose game I can't go to because I can't walk from the parking lot to the field. So you have to ask questions around their why. The why isn't the first thing they say. And if you're having trouble pulling the why, it's because you're not having a conversation.